You said you love the great outdoors. Now, that can mean a lot of different things. So, are you into hiking? Are you, my husband is white and he's always like, oh, when we go to Zimbabwe, we should go hiking. And I'm like, no, nobody's going hiking in that sango that's full of snakes. Nobody hikes there. And then I discovered there are actually Zimbabweans, black Zimbabweans, who do go hiking in that sango full of snakes.
Right, I'm right here.
See, she's right there. Are you ready to rumble? Okay, welcome back to Extraordinary Conversations with Ask Chenai, the podcast where we go beneath the surface with brilliant people, usually of Zimbabwean descent, to talk about the full arc of their lives, their identity shifts, their career pivots, their lessons, all of it. Today's guest is Rumbi Makanga. Rumbi is an investor, a founder, an ecosystem lead, and global strategy and transformation executive. She has helped build ventures. She has backed entrepreneurs. She's led across product, innovation, and commercial functions in large-scale international environments. She's worked across financial services and space tech. But underneath that all, she is also a Zimbabwean woman who's been moving through multiple worlds. Rumbi and I are part of the same broad Zimbabwean ecosystem, and I'm so glad to finally sit down with her to talk about the stuff that doesn't ever make it to the LinkedIn bio. So, Rumbi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am ecstatic to be here.
We're really glad to have you. We begin all of our podcasts with the same signature question. All right, Rumbi. Imagine you are stepping onto a massive stage. Thousands of people are in the crowd. They're screaming, Rumbi, yeah, welcome. But before you walk out, a hype song has to play, a theme song that captures your essence, your vibe, your journey. What's your song?
Do you know the song? I don't know if it counts as a hype song, but the song that I love, that I think I would want playing in that moment is Kure Kure. I think it's by, who sings that song?
Ja Praiser?
Is it Ja Praiser? I'm not sure. It's like a bunch of people. I like the remix version. It's like a bunch of artists, but I love that song. I think maybe just because for me it speaks to that journey of being, especially being a Zimbabwean woman, somebody who left Zim when I was 9, who's grown up in the UK. It speaks to that whole, like, we've come a long way. And to me it makes me think of my grandma and my great-grandma who are late, and just the journey, that continuation of the journey through everything they went through, how that set us up for success and getting to where I've gotten to. So I think that's the song.
I love that you've picked a song that honors your roots, but also honors your ancestors, where you came from. And once again, we have a deep response. I every time I regret my choices.
You want to seem like a frivolous, like.
No, mine was quite ratchet. So I love that, and now I'm gonna have to go and look it up. Because I don't know that song.
What I love the most about this, Chenai, is that like your music library is growing, and we're learning new songs each week. So I'm happy for you, Chenai, especially.
Yeah.
It's Aishan.
Ah, Aishan, yes.
And there you go.
Okay. And that's a good segue into the next question, which is not the LinkedIn bio, not the polished intro. If someone stopped you on the street and said, Rumbi, who are you? Really? How can you say that? Could you help us introduce you to the world?
I think it would be a collection, just a random assortment of things that make up who I am. I think I would say, first of all, I'm a child of God. I think that's such a big part of who I am and what strengthens me, what's given me, I think, so much of the blessing in my life to be able to do what I've done. I really do strongly identify with being Zimbabwean and African. That's such a big thing for me, to really be proud of where I come from and to represent that. I'm the oldest of 5, and I'm very close with my siblings. That's something that would probably come into that.
Oldest of 5. Wow. So you must have strong older sibling energy.
I do.
Older siblings are a unique breed. Right? You can always tell when you're in the presence of one.
I think so. I think having had to navigate a lot of changes quite young, I think all of that stuff also adds to, yes, I was the older sibling and then we moved and you're navigating new environments. So I think I've been in a lot of situations where my older siblingness has been like exacerbated. But I love it. I love having older sibling energy. Because I feel like someone once said to me, this is in a very specific context, I think, where it's just men approaching you. And he said, I come with a warning approach. What's that thing they do for dogs? Like approach with caution. Like that's the sign that I come with. And I love that. Because yes, come correct.
Was that a compliment or shade? So did it come, what was the energy of that? Was it saying, girl, you are formidable. You should come with a warning sign that says, Rumbi is approaching. Bow down. Or is it, oof, watch out when you see her coming?
Who knows? I think I'm the kind of problematically delusional person where whatever somebody said, I heard what I wanted to hear.
Yes. He said you're pretty annoying, but you said, hey. He said I'm pretty.
You know exactly what I mean. I also think I'm really funny. So even though that's a really obnoxious thing to say to someone.
No pressure.
You will laugh. You will have a good time. And I think related to that, I'm somebody who likes to... I think life is serious and there are serious things in life, but I like to have the levity. I like to be able to laugh. I like to be able to just be light and free and enjoy life. I love being outdoors. Like, I really love being outdoors. I think for me, one of the struggles I've had in my career was actually being like working, say in London, being like stuck inside. The hardest thing for me is being stuck inside on a sunny day. Because I want to be outside. I don't like wearing shoes. And it's funny because my friends, having grown up in the UK, my friends would always laugh at me because come April every year. And April is like spring, technically spring, but it's not really like springing. It's still quite cold, but come every spring, you'll see me with my toes out. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't like my feet to be enclosed.
So, Rumbi, do you wear open-toed shoes, or are you like my friend from Switzerland who just walks around barefoot in the middle?
Okay, no, I don't rock with the barefoot thing. Because I think, like, no, it's too much for me. And it's, you know, when you walk around and you see what people do on the floor, especially here in the UK, dogs are pooping on the floor, people are spitting on the floor. I could not rock with barefoot. But I like a little sandal.
That's awesome. And one more thing, you said you love the great outdoors. Now, that can mean a lot of different things. So, are you into hiking? Are you know, my husband is white, and he's always like, oh, when we go to Zimbabwe, we should go hiking. And I'm like, no, nobody's going hiking in that sango that's full of snakes. You know, that's full of snakes. Nobody hikes there, Aaron. And then I discovered there are actually Zimbabweans, black Zimbabweans, who do go hiking in that sango full of snakes.
Right? Yeah, I'm right here.
See, she's right there.
Listen, Christmas, what year was it? Not that long ago, 2023 maybe? I was hiking on Christmas Day. Like, I went on a Christmas Day hike. There's obviously the part where everybody hikes, but there's another area that's like very hidden. Like, you have to drive through these villages. That was lit. And it's no one else is there. It's Christmas Day. That was amazing. That was one of my favorite things I've ever done on Christmas Day.
They're hiking trails in Zimbabwe. Are they hiking for those who like, are there, how do you know what trail to follow?
That's a good point. I think I've not done any, like, I've not climbed... Okay, I've climbed a mountain only once in Vimbai, and I had a guide, like a local guide. But in other places, I'm not really... I don't go to... I don't know, I feel like when you're only going, like, 30 minutes or an hour, you're not going so far that you're going to get, like, lost. But I think I do have a bit of... Again, the whole delusion thing. Like, I think I'm a bit... Because it's funny, because, like, now you're mentioning the snakes. I'm like, oh, yeah, like, those are all dangerous things that we could have encountered. Do I think about that in the moment? Not so much. So yeah, I've always, I don't know, like, I'll be with a friend and they'll be like, oh, look, that looks like an interesting path. Where does that lead? And I'm like, oh, cool, let's go check it out. So I feel like as I say this, I feel very like, I'm just glad I imagine my grandma like hearing that, or my great grandma hearing, oh yeah, I just went wandering in the forest willy-nilly. That would not fly.
No, but we do have guides, Chenai, and we do have some marked trails and some places. And Kuvisi has a marked trail, and you can choose like the 5, 10, 20K hiking trail, yeah.
That sounds great.
Remy, take me back a little. You said you left Zim when you were 9. You left for this UK when you were 9. What was it like growing up in Zimbabwe? Who's the little Rumbi, the little girl who grew up in Zimbabwe? What is she like?
I think I'm one of those people that hasn't actually changed that much. I think I loved growing up in Zim. I spent a lot of time at my grandma's farm, which is like Kumkarati, so near Chegutu, like on the way, Chenai Road, coming out of Chegutu, that kind of area. So I think maybe that's also where my love of being outdoors, of being in nature came from, because when you're constantly immersed in those environments and you fall in love with that, I think from the eyes of a child that are full of wonder. It's funny because I think as an adult, I understand now that a lot of people don't like going kumusha, they don't like going to the rural areas, and I get it. But I think for me, that was the place of discovery and fun.
Rumbi, but I feel like different families have different versions of kumusha. Like my cousin moved kumusha and she has like solar panels. She has a pond. Our kumushas are not the same. For some of us, you know, the parents, they really invested in their kumusha. So it was nice. It was nice to go. And then others, you know, not so much.
No, it was not. There was now. Is there solar now? It really is. And at the time that I was little, this is when the farm invasions were happening. So I only found this out after my grandmother died. But she actually was one of 3 people, her and 2 men, took over a farm from this white guy. And so when we went there was obviously like the old infrastructure from the farm, but I think they kept that as like communal infrastructure. So this is like building, like literally building the huts from the ground up. But I loved that. So I actually helped my grandma, like, okay, I didn't do any serious building, but I helped to build the bench, you know what I'm saying? I'm very proud of that to this very day. So it was kumaruzeva and like with nothing, like definitely no funds. But I think it really goes back to I think what my family's in, that sense of everything's made into an adventure. And so as a little kid, being like, when you go back to school after the holidays and you're like, I was building benches and for me, that was cool.
So were you raised by your grandmother or you just spent the holidays with her and that really left an imprint on you?
It varied. When I was very small, I did stay with them. So in Chegutu, in the town, just for childcare purposes, I went back to Harare to start kindergarten and then start like grade 1. But yeah, through the holidays I would typically be with my grandma either in the city or usually back at the farm, because that's where her priorities were in terms of what she had to do day to day. So I ended up spending a lot of time with my grandma, with my great grandma, but also spending a lot of time in those rural settings.
I am really obsessed with history. I have a family tree. I've been building the family tree and I'm always asking questions about different people. I actually named one of my businesses Nzira after a woman who was she was actually my mother's great grandmother's sister. But because the story of who she was, this woman who was, for all intents and purposes, the biggest badass, I wanted to channel her energy in everything that I did. Her name was Nzira. But Nzira was already taken, so I had to name my company Nziraksa. And who were these women, these grandmothers who were raising you? What were their names?
So my grandmother's name was Irene. My great-grandmother's name was Emily. My great-grandmother was a nurse. She was a really cool fact about her that, again, I learned like very late in my life, was that she was at one point the top, in whatever year she finished, the top nursing student in Zimbabwe. Wait, I have to say them in the colonial names. Southern Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia, and Nyasaland. So that's Zambia and Malawi, which was really cool. It was like, and she valued education very strongly. Like for her, you had to get educated, you had to get your children educated. Her 2 things were like, you have to be educated, your children have to be educated, and you have to not have more children than you can afford to have, because so that you can take care of every single one of those children really well. That was my great-grandma. She was a very devout Catholic woman. My grandmother, she was a policewoman. Her father was a policeman.
Wow, that is so cool. She was a policewoman.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was. She wanted to, which is so cool that she was like, my dad's a policeman, I'm going to be a policewoman. And she went and she did it. And it's so cool, like even beyond those 2 examples, like my great aunts, I have a great aunt who was a policewoman, a great aunt who is a captain in the army. And I think I grew up, my grandma's sister was a maths teacher. So I grew up around, I think, very like non-traditional examples of women. And so I think coming back to the question of what was little Rumbi like, I think I had all those examples around me, and I had the sense that anything was possible. Like I could be anything I wanted to be. One of my things back then was like I used to come first in like primary school. They used to, I don't know if they still do that. They're like the class system or the class ranks, the class list. And I remember the boys would get, there was this one boy who got so, he got so pressed about it. And it's only now actually as an adult that I'm like at home with somebody saying to him, how could you get beat by a girl? It never occurred to me as a kid, but he would come to me and make appeals and be like, hey, lay off this term or whatever. I'd be like, nah, if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. That's not my problem. So I think that's like a flavor of who I was. I was super adventurous, super like imaginative, super creative. And I was given a lot of space to be all of those things.
So you grew up all over the world and you've worked all over the world. What has that been like, moving between all these different spaces and places?
I love that question. I think the only place in the world that and it's not an indictment on the people or anything, is the US. I get sick every single time I go to the US. Every time I've tried to go to the US, I've decided I'm intolerant, I'm allergic. It's cool. But I love it. I grew up in a family that really valued travel, even if that was just in the country or road trips growing up. So I grew up with that sense of, and in our family it's very much encouraged to travel and explore all these different places. And I think for me, the great gift in my experience traveling and working and living in different places has been that I've been embraced. I feel like my experience has been like I've gone to all these different places and they've adopted me as their own. Like I have a Kenyan nickname that people still call me by to this day.
What's your Kenyan nickname?
It's actually really similar to my name. It's Mumbi, but she's the mother of the Gikuyu people. So it's like it's a nickname that actually has a lot of honor and respect behind it, which is really cool. And it works very well because it's very similar to my name. But yeah, in Italy I was called Anna Maria because they struggle to say Rumbi. And it's funny because nowadays people will be like, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. But as a kid I loved it. I was like a teenager and I was like, yes, I have an Italian identity.
You lived in Italy?
I didn't live there, but just the traveling through different places. And so yeah, like I feel like there are places you go like as a black woman or as a black person where you're like, hey, that was not the most comfortable place, or I didn't feel the most welcomed. But by and large, my experience has just been getting to feel like a local in all these different global places. And I think that's a really cool thing.
The traveling, yes, it opens your eyes and there's so many advantages to it and lessons to learn from it. But would you say the different places might have taken something away from you or given something to you?
I can't think of anything that has been taken away, but I think definitely gained a lot. Like, for example, a very simple thing actually is I've traveled to like France a lot for like conferences and stuff. And one of the things that I find really interesting is they prioritize their like morning coffee. Like it's a thing. Don't expect me to be present until I've had my morning coffee and my little patisserie. And I love that. I love that these cultures that really value, and it's the idea that you have to sit and you share that meal with somebody, and it's that human interface and human interaction, whereas in the UK there isn't really that culture of those things that are sacred. Not as bad as America, where like they don't believe in holiday or sick pay or anything like that, but there's still this like grind culture. So I think if anything, I've definitely taken little bits of all those different cultures and how they work and how they live. Going to the Caribbean and they're like so relaxed about everything. Why are you stressing? Everything's gonna be fine. Which for me, I think as an A-type, like constantly like on kind of person, that was the most frustrating thing when you're like, my bus has left me behind. No, don't worry about it. Just stay another day. They have no cares. So I think more than anything, I've just gained a little bit from all the different places I've worked. And also working globally, learning a lot about different business cultures, like some of the Asian cultures where respect and a huge amount of honor is placed on the other person, and even how you interact with people, down to simple things like how you hand somebody something. And I think within all of that, the really cool thing for me sometimes is seeing some of the similarities to our culture. As Zimbabweans. I was actually at a friend's house recently and I handed her something with my left. I went to hand her something with my left hand and I had to undo it. And she was like, what are you doing? And it was like, I said to her, I was like, in this moment, I literally heard my grandmother's voice being like, you do not hand somebody something with your left hand.
Is that a thing?
Yes, you would like actually excuse yourself, like you'd say sorry ndakutambidza left hand neruoko rusiri.
Whoa, I have never ever heard this. And I am 110% Zimbabwean. I've been handing people things that I need to go downstairs and ask my mum. Like, Mum, I didn't know that was a thing. I'll be like, Nai mama, it's your wadire. Maybe I do it subconsciously. It's interesting you said how you hand people things. I was actually thinking, oh, it must be a strange thing from Japan. You know, Zimbabwe is quite diverse, guys. Don't laugh at me. Zimbabwe is quite diverse. We are actually maybe even subcultures are diverse. It could be that where I'm from.
But also, Shana, it's not just the hand thing. Perhaps you use the left hand, but there's a posture to it. There's a way you do it.
Posture. I know about the posture. I don't look at my dad on the top of his head. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I hand things with my left hand, left and right. I must be offending people so much. I need to go and ask. And to my listeners, this is going to be the poll. You get to have a poll in every Spotify. You're going to have to ask, like, did you know the thing about handing things with your left hand? Okay.
I would love to know the results as well. And it's so interesting as well, just on this point, just when you have those little bits of Zimbabweannesses that come out in different places. Because it was such an interesting moment having that conversation with my friend her parents are Guyanese, she's grown up in the UK. To her, it's such a non-thing. You're like, she's like, why are you even so bothered right now? And I was like, but I can't do this thing, which is so funny. Because I think there was something that was like inculcated in me from like childhood.
Is there a time when your Zimbabweanness was like your superpower in a space that you didn't expect, or in a space that didn't expect it?
I think it relates to that point, actually. I think there's an element of that thing of you must be somebody, and how you then conduct yourself and like how respectful you are. And I think if you grew up in a family where that was really drilled into you, I can't undo it. And so I think I conduct myself in a lot of spaces in that way. And it's something that has come, like at school, that was like a thing. The teachers were like, oh my gosh, she's so polite. She's such a joy. And it helps because when your teachers like you, they open doors for you. And the same thing in business. When people like you, they really open doors for you. So I think that. The other thing, which I think is a very Zimbabwean thing, but I didn't realize until the last few years, is I think there's a very specific sense of humor that we have as Zimbabweans. I think people these days talk about banter, but I think there's a very specific like banterousness that you have. And you can have that kind of interaction with a complete stranger, go about your ways, never speak again, but you had a great 5-minute conversation. And I think that's a skill that I didn't realize I had until I was using it in business. And people would be like, wow. Because they'd be like, oh, do you know that person? I'm like, no, I just met them. And so I think that's definitely a Zimbabwean superpower that's yielded me a huge amount of benefit. I've gotten to have some really interesting conversations with super interesting people. One really random one actually was I was on the train going to the airport one time when I was going to Kenya. Actually, this is 2016, and there was a man opposite me, like I was like 22. He was probably like in his 40s, and he started talking to me, and I can't remember where he started the conversation from. Just a general like normal conversation, but I'm keeping up the conversation. I was Zimbabwean and I know how to talk to people. And he gets off the train at the end, and my mum was with me actually, and she got quite concerned. She was like, what's this strange old man, or like older man, doing talking to my daughter? And just before he got off the train, he said to me, I was in a motorbike accident, I don't know, 3 months ago, or whatever it was. He said, I've had to learn to do everything again, to walk again, but also to talk again. But I live on my own, and so I don't have very many opportunities to talk to people. And he said, talking to you today was like such a gift for me. It was such an emotional thing. And he was like, you don't know what you've done for me and all this stuff. And I remember that day I was like, you never know.
Yeah.
You really never know like what like a conversation can be doing for somebody.
And do you credit your Zimbabweanness and your ability to have banter across cultures with that? That's how you're able to show up in spaces like that?
Yeah, I think just in all spaces. And I think in that situation, it was just like, the thing I remember being taught as a kid was like, you don't ignore people. If you walk past somebody, you say hello to them. So I think it was that, like, that's, I think what made me so amenable to talking to him in the first place. This is a human being who has dignity. At the very least, he wasn't being weird. I was like, I can hear him out. If he is weird, then gotta shut that down. But as long as this is just a normal conversation, to give somebody that space and that time.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It has a downside. Sorry, your question didn't come with the downside, but the one downside I will say is the panhandlers, the people that are asking for money for charities. And
yes, the ones, especially when you get out of the tube. As soon as you get out of the tube, I give them money every time. I'm always like, do I have a sign on my head that says this auntie is just tapping her credit card every time she comes into London? Is it my Zimbabweanness?
That's what I'm saying, because I always greet them, because I can't ignore them. I don't have it in me. I can't just walk past them and not...
We had this conversation earlier, Chenai, when I was talking about the people-pleasing and stuff. I hear that it is a Zimbabwean thing as well. We're very famous for that.
We are. We're very famous for that.
I think we belong in those cultures. Again, those cultures in Asia that are like, no, you go first. No, you go first.
Yes. This I will accept. This I will accept. Yes, this I will accept.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You're listening to Extraordinary Conversations with Ask Chenai. But have you actually asked Chenai yet? Are you drowning in admin? Think you can't afford to hire help? Think again. At Ask Chenai, we match busy people with smart, reliable virtual assistants, all based in Harare, Zimbabwe. And our packages start at just £159 per month. I'm Chenai, and I built this business because I was tired of wasting money on flaky freelancers. I needed support I could actually trust, so I went back to my roots and tapped into one of the most talented workforces on the planet. Our team are not your ordinary virtual assistants. They're extraordinary for extraordinary executives. Stop drowning in your to-dos. Start focusing on what really matters. Whether you're a founder, freelancer, or time-starved exec, Ask Chenai is your unfair advantage. Visit askchenai.com or email sales@askchenai.com to find out more. Let's help you get your time back.
Okay, so you've worked in strategy at a very high level, and I would like to know, how do you approach personal strategy? So how do you know, when do you know that it's time to shift, quit, or double down? I know I'm usually the first one to say, stuff's not working out and I'm out. So when do you know, and when's the right time to make that shift?
I think for me, this is going to be a really random way to answer this question. There's a quiz I did. It was actually on a dating app, and it shows you your personality profile. And there's this one that says how do you make decisions? And I think it's intuition. Oh, what were the three? Intuition, intellect, and a third one that I can't think right now. And I was balanced across all three. And so I think the
intuition, intellect, and...
Are you on this dating site too?
No, I'm not on a dating site. I'm a married woman. Okay. Huh? My husband's even listening to this. Baby, ignore that.
For the life of me, I can't think what the third thing is.
I'm an old married woman.
I was balanced across all three. And so I think for me, there is a little bit of thinking through, strategizing. I think starting your career as a strategy consultant, I think it definitely has stuck with me. But I think intuition tends to drive that feeling of, okay, something needs to shift now. I need to do something different. And I think if I was being very honest, since I was a child, I've had these, I think prophetic is too strong a word, but I've had these dreams that just show me how things are going to pan out. And so that's something that I've learned to actually really listen to. And when I haven't, actually, there's one really good example. There was one time, professionally, there was one time where I saw in a dream, this person is going to betray you. They're going to betray you. They're going to dishonor you. And I'm in real life, I was like, no, so-and-so wouldn't do this to me. And they did.
Rumbi, what was the dream? What was it symbolic? Did you see a symbol of something in the dream that told you? Or the person literally just betrayed you in the dream?
Yeah, the person literally switched up on me. in the dream. And like it was in a very specific kind of way that it was like undermining my contributions on a particular like task or project. It was like those kinds of things. I'm seeing that play out and I'm like, no, so-and-so wouldn't do that. And it was actually not just one dream. I think I had like 3 and I ignored all of them. And then the thing happens and when you're like, oh, if I had only listened, if I had only stepped away. And I think the challenge sometimes is you step away when things, because you're stepping away before the things have gone wrong. So oftentimes, one of the things I was saying to my friend recently is I have become so comfortable with looking like a little bit crazy or like a little bit, people have questions of like, why are you doing this? Or why are you going in this direction? Why are you just, but it's because I know something or I've seen something that no one else can know that and see that. So that's been such a huge thing for me. Even in like romantic situations, I have dreamt my betrayal before it happened. And I've gotten so good at being like, and sometimes I actually just sit on it and I'm like, I wait for it to happen. Because sometimes if I say to someone, oh, I'm ending this thing because you were going to betray me, then I look crazy. So sometimes I just let it play out. And then I'm like, I walk away calmly. I don't even tell them anything. I'm just like, oh, there was one guy, it happened, right? And he was like, it was a situation where he was like conflicted about he'd been in a relationship. He didn't quite let it go. I didn't know that. He's, oh, do I start something new? Do I end this thing? I was like, honey boo, let me make it easy for you. I said, there's no conflict. I'm not there. I'm gone. You know that whole, you don't have to worry about me, sweetheart. And every single time, I tell you, every time I have listened to that and followed that, my life has been dandy. Every time I have been like, no, so-and-so wouldn't hurt me like this. No, that's not going to happen. So now, yeah, I just follow that. And yeah, I look a bit weird in the moment, I think, to people.
No, Rumbi, there's power in dreams. And I might kick myself for talking about this on my public podcast. But I listen to my dreams. I do not ignore them. And my grandfather, I never met my grandfather, my dad's dad. He died in the 70s. No, that's a lie. He died in the late 60s, I think. But he died long before I was born because I was only born in the 80s. And one of the things I learned about my granddad, was that he used to have these like really weird prophetic dreams. They were like really specific. And one of the ones that he had was, my granddad used to work as a court interpreter. And when he was done working on Fridays, he would go back home. So he worked as a court interpreter in one town, and then maybe he would drive back to Bulawayo. And he would drive back with the magistrate, who was like a white guy, and he used to drive the car for the magistrate. So he would drive the car, and the magistrate would sit in the passenger side. And then one Thursday night before he was supposed to drive, he had a dream so vivid of his sister telling him, tomorrow, when you go home, do not drive the car. Do not drive the car no matter what. And he thought, this is really weird. It was so clear, I can't ignore it. And it wasn't his dead sister. It was his sister who was alive, but somehow coming to him in a dream. And it's not like she remembered. She was like, why would I come to you in a dream? But the next day, they got into the car. They start driving for a few minutes. And then he says to the white guy, the magistrate, I'm not feeling well. Can we switch places? And then he said, fine, let's switch places. They drove and the journey went perfectly normally. The journey was fine. But when they got to the house, you know how it is in Zimbabwe, they got to the gate. I guess they went beep beep at the gate. Somebody opens it. They start driving. This guy starts driving. And then his son, out of nowhere, jumps into the driveway. And then he hits his son, boom, with the car. And then immediately the magistrate's wife came out. My grandfather's name was Gibson. She came out. And apparently she was screaming, Gibson, Gibson, what have you done? What have you done? And then he was like, oh, I wasn't driving, madam. But luckily, they took the boy, they ran with him, they drove him very quickly to the hospital. He was fine, he didn't have any major injuries. But you can imagine what that situation would have been like if my grandfather had been driving. Even though it was an innocent mistake, black man in Zimbabwe in that era, if he had been the one who was driving, that would have been a very different, we would be having a different conversation today. We might not be here today. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. But throughout my life, I've also I've leaned into it. I've leaned into the fact that I have very powerful dreams. Many of them aren't telling me messages or anything. I believe that my ancestors will visit me in my dreams. So sometimes I'll see my grandmother and I think she's just coming to hang out with me. And sometimes she's a young woman like me. Like one of my favorite dreams was when my grandmother and her sister came and they were dressed up wearing these summer dresses. And I said, where are you girls going dressed up like that? And then I hung out with them, but in the dream, I didn't realize it was a dream. And when I woke up, I was so sad because I was having such a nice time with them. But then sometimes, other times, I'll just get like comfort. I was going through a really difficult time. Another time, Again, I'll get a visit from, I remember once my uncle visiting me, and he said, Chenai, don't worry. I've checked everything around your house and everything is okay. And it was when I was going through a really difficult time. So again, I could have an entire podcast. I might cut this out so that I can use this content for my separate podcast on prophetic dreams. But just between us, it's more of lean into your dreams because there's something there.
No, that's a big one for me. And yeah, even I'm like now, people afterwards questioning me on whether I dreamt about something. Like there was an investor who used to say when his back hurt, was it like Niederhofer? Somebody he like when his back hurt, like he made a decision on like investments and it seemed to work for a period of his time. But yeah, no, for me, that's such a big one. And it's something I don't speak about very often. I think maybe because I think in Zim is something that's very spoken about, but I think in a lot of contexts I exist in, it's not a thing. But yeah, listen, the dreams haven't led me astray.
No, they have not. You keep listening to those dreams.
I will.
So, okay, I know this is a very strange and not part of the thing, but I'm wondering if there's like a difference based on where you are. Like, do they change based on where you are in terms of like geographic location?
Like, you mean if I'm in a physically different place?
Yes, so like my dreams are stronger when I'm in Zim and they're more direct. When I'm not in Zim, they're more symbolic.
No, mine are usually quite direct. I feel like I've not noticed a huge... I do think there's actually an increased intensity when I'm in Zim. They feel far more vivid. I think that's the difference for me. My dreams when I'm in Zim can be very vivid. I have vivid dreams generally, but they become like really intense. Like as in if I have a dream that's like a warning, like I wake up feeling, okay, I need to do something right now because... Whereas I feel like I don't tend to have that elsewhere. But I've had these dreams since I was a kid. And so I think for me, they've been pretty consistent. And also like you, Chenai, I have dreams that are just dreams. And every now and then I have dreams where it feels like there's a message. And to me, they feel different. I don't know how to explain how different they are. What's the difference? But I know I wake up and I'm like, no, that's something. And I write them down. I'm like, that's something I need to write down. And I write them down because when the thing happens, like I can flip back and be like, man, I dreamt about this in February. Why? Like if I'd listened back then. But yeah, for me it's important. And it's important for me to like also remind. Sometimes there are dreams I have to remind myself of. I can be very forgetful. So I found a way now to like actually remind myself of the prophetic dreams I've had of things that haven't happened. So if it's a person who's going to betray me, remember that so-and-so is not your friend.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, because I forget. And I'll be there like, yeah, I have to like... Because I am very faithful to the dreams now. I very much listen to what they tell me.
Yeah, mine are different. I don't think they necessarily... I get more just... I can't tell what's going to happen. I just get more messages of comfort, messages of things, I don't know, maybe messages to let me know how things are in the spiritual world, messages from God, all is well, chill out. Don't worry, Chenai. There's a storm, but you are fine. You are perfectly fine.
Which is nice. I wish I got a little comfort in my dreams. But I'm not complaining. No, I'm not complaining because I'm cool with what I have. I take that back.
What are you unlearning in this season of your life?
What am I unlearning? Do you know what? I think it ties into this conversation that we're having. I think maybe the rupture that I experienced leaving Zim at the young age that I did, at the tender age that I did, meant that when I came to the UK, I think I had a lot of, I want to fit in, I want to be like everybody else, which meant that I think there's a lot of like I think I had to reclaim a lot of my Zimbabweanness across time. But I think this particular element, this like spiritual element, so these things like not being like, yes, I work in VC and it's rational, intellectual, blah, blah, blah. But I think I'm unlearning that whole... I think there's this antagonism between if you're really intelligent, then you don't believe in God. If you're really rational and intelligent, then you can't like believe in the messages that you're being sent to you in your dreams. So I think that's a huge thing I'm unlearning right now. And I found a huge measure of comfort because I think I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd been denying by having fallen so far into this like super like intellectualizing state of being. So that's been a big thing for me.
I like that.
And you are a poet. You are a storyteller, a poet, a creative.
I fell in love with words really young. I used to. So the part of my like Zim story actually that's quite funny is my aunt is 6 years older than me. So when she was going to school and I was living in Chebutu with my grandma and everybody, her and like my aunt and uncle who were like, they're 5, 6 and 7 years older than me. So every day they'd leave and go to school, they'd come back. And I was like, I don't really understand this whole you can't go to school, you're too young business. So I'm going to go to school and everybody else can just deal with their own problems with that. And to the credit of whoever my aunt's teacher was, he let me go to school. And I would literally sit, I had like my own table by the window, he would give me my own homework and I would take part in what was happening in class. And so I started learning how to read really young. And so I used to steal my uncle, the one who's 5 years older than me, I used to steal his like English books. I just fell in love with language very young. My first favorite poem is I Remember. Can't think who it's by, but I love that poem. I remember, dang, do I remember the words? Something about when I was a boy. But I loved it. And I think that plus like a lot of... Shona was never my strongest subject or my favorite subject. But I think there is also like a real poetry, I think, in the Shona language and how that's communicated. So that was the beginning, and I just started writing poems when I was very small. Wrote a bunch of novels in my like teenage angst years, a few songs.
Are any of them published?
I don't think I've published any poems, but I have published some short stories.
Where are they published?
Different ones on, what's that place called? It's actually a Zimbabwean one. I cannot think where they're published. One of them was published at a defunct. It was published on Expound magazine, which is now defunct. One was published on Afropean. That was an essay. I can't think where the other one's published. And then one is published in a very small run of a print of... It was horror. The genre was horror. And I decided to challenge myself.
I was actually about to ask what your genre was.
It's not horror. It's not. No, that was just like it came up and I was like, oh, let me try my hand at this. Yeah, I was in a place where I was just super experimental. I think I spent a long time trying to discover my voice and trying to like grow into my voice and settle into my voice. So I tried everything. I was like haikus, horror, songs. But I think, yeah, I am at heart, at root, a poet. And I think even the way I write prose is still very like lyrical.
Who's your favorite Zimbabwean writer?
Ooh, my favorite Zimbabwean writer. If I'm being very honest, it's a non-fiction writer. He's a friend, so I think maybe that's a disclaimer I have to put out. But it's Percy Jomoya. I just love the way he writes. I think people that can write non-fiction and they're really like beautiful, slightly poetic, really, I don't know. There's something about the way he writes essays that just grips me. And he writes a lot of really interesting historical or cultural things, but in a beautiful way. I'm trying to think if I think he's my favorite Zimbabwean writer. But there are so many incredible writers, right?
There's so many good Zimbabwean writers. Yeah. There's so many, and
I love poetry, like the old, like Charles Mungoshi. There's a lot. I think there's such a heritage of poetry as well. Yeah, so many people.
And when I'm in Zimbabwe, like there's a bookshop in Avondale because I love books, and I go there and I just try to select like a load of local books so I can discover new authors. And I wish that there was a little bit more of and maybe I'm just not part of the group of people who understand more of a scene, because in the US they have Borders, right? Maybe they still have Borders, Barnes and Noble. No, Borders went bust. They had Barnes and Noble. And in my 20s I went to university in the US, and one of my favorite things to do, you could spend an afternoon just curled up in a bookshop.
I love that.
You'd buy yourself a latte and you would just curl up in the bookshop and you could just go wander through it. The same feeling I would get from being in a library when I was younger.
Like the Foyles in London. Like the Foyles off Tottenham Court Road. It's got that vibe where you can sit there and you can read.
And I was trying to figure out what the equivalent place was in Zimbabwe. And like I said, I went to Avondale Bookshop and I got some stuff, but it seemed to be the only one I could find online. And I know Petina Gapa was doing a lot of work to resuscitate the local scene, doing a lot of work investing in the Harare Central, like the library, that one there near Rotten Row. But I don't know how far that got.
You know what they say, if you want to hide something from Zimbabweans, you put it in a book. So we have been slacking on the book front. We had a spot in town, but they closed down. I was so depressed when I literally cried because it was the one place where I would go and feel like I'm in a library. It was in town, and you could go there and swap out books. I don't remember the name, but it's been there since the 90s. I think since way before we were born, because I know my mom used to go there. She's the one who actually introduced me to the spot. But they sold like antiques and stuff like that. You could go in with your book and then exchange it for another one. And it was just a beautiful spot. They closed it down. It's now a fast food spot.
I used to buy a lot of books just on the street, especially in my gap year. I used to work in Harare and buy my Stephen King books from those just a dude, some dude who used to buy books. He used to sell books on the street. Although once when I bought the stand, when I'm saying he had a lot of Stephen King, I went through a Stephen King phase. And then the last chapter was like missing a bunch of pages. And I was like, my guy, why are you selling me a book that's missing the most important part of the story? I'm still mad at him. I think there is a gap, a need for a really great Zimbabwean sci-fi / horror.
Chenai, just say you want a zombie movie, a zombie book written by a Zimbabwean author. This is where we're going with this. I see it coming.
I'm not the one. I can find you the ones, but it's not me. Yeah, no, I used to be part of that scene, and I think I wish there was... I remember going actually to the event, one of the events Bettina put on at her city library. But I think the challenge that happens with some of those things is that I remember somebody who was like outside of that scene being like, it just feels so elitist, and it was not untrue. And so I think having, because it's one thing for us as writers to be like having a network of writers and a community of writers. But if we're just writing like for each other, or if we're not creating a scene, we're just a club. And so, yeah, I think having that thing that reaches out.
There are a lot of writers who write for other writers. And it's not to critique people who are very highbrow or have intellectual content, but then it can also become very cliquey.
Yeah.
It can become very cliquey, but I have not published anything yet. Watch this space, guys. Watch this space.
Waiting for it.
No, I think there is... The cool thing, I think, is there is a general supportiveness. I remember, like, my first published short story, Novale Bulawayo, she actually promoted it off her own back. I don't know the woman, never met her. So that's really cool, because I think sometimes there's this idea that as Zimbabweans we don't support each other. But that's certainly not been my experience in that community. When I call it elitist, it's just like the fact that it's just us in a room alone. But within that community, I didn't find people doing that crabs in a barrel thing, or like trying to... At least that was my experience.
And was it mostly like, when you think about it, was it also considered elitist because was the crowd mostly quite upper middle class?
Yeah. And also, like, I think it's a very specific time in the art scene. I don't know if, like, it was the group of people that would enjoy going to Jalele Art Station and, like, these, like, underground art scenes, which I think if you're, like, really into, like, art and literature, it's, like, amazing, it's cool. But I think if you're somebody who's not usually in those spaces, you come into those spaces and you're like, oh, I don't know if I fit in. I don't know. So I think there's also those two things about it, because you probably only enjoy it if you're... Like, the evening at the Harare City Library was amazing for me. I wandered off and was just, like, roaming the aisles and this kind of thing. And it was... I don't know if I'd ever been there before. Because of where it is. It's not in a place... It's not in a part of the city that people...
Isn't it just right next to the Sheraton? Right next to the museum?
When last did you go there, Chenai?
Not that long ago. But the thing is, I must say I don't hang out there at night.
Yeah, this event was in the evening. Like, it's not the safest place to be hanging out at those times. I remember everybody was like, why are you going there? What are you doing?
But it sounds like the kind of thing that would be my vibe.
Yeah, no, you'd have loved it.
That would be my vibe. They wouldn't be able to get rid of me. I would just glob on and they'd be like, don't tell Chenai the next time we're having one.
How about you start your own? I'm here.
I don't need to start my own. I need to go find theirs, because theirs sounds amazing. Don't reinvent the wheel. If it already exists.
True. I hope someone's still doing that kind of stuff, because it was great.
I'm actually going to check on it. I would love to join something like that.
I don't remember if it was like a formal group or whatever. I got invited and I had a great time. And like Jalele Art Station, if they're still running, super cool. And that's where you'll find the people that are doing the book club things as well.
Okay, good. We'll check it out.
Yeah.
Friends, that is where we will leave it. Halfway through our extraordinary conversation with Rumbi Makanga, we've talked about hiking in the sango, prophetic dreams, books that shape her imagination, and why Zimbabweans, or whether Zimbabweans really do have the best banter. We've only just scratched the surface. Come back again next week for part 2, where Rumbi is going to take us into the world of venture capital. We're talking about what space tech really is, why some investors seem weirdly drawn to sketchy founders, and the single most expensive you can make as a startup, scrimping on legal fees. Oh, and yes, we do get her zombie apocalypse survival plan. So come back and hear the rest of it. If you love this episode, make sure you follow and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps more people to find these extraordinary conversations. You can also share it with a friend who needs a little laughter, a little Zimbabwean banter, and maybe they need to learn about not using their left hand. You're listening to Extraordinary Conversations with Ask Chenai. But have you actually asked Chenai yet? Are you drowning in admin? Think you can't afford to hire help? Think again. At Ask Chenai, we match busy people with smart, reliable virtual assistants, all based in Harare, Zimbabwe. And our packages start at just £159 per month. I'm Chenai, and I built this business because I was tired of wasting money on flaky freelancers. I needed support I could actually trust, so I went back to my roots and tapped into one of the most talented workforces on the planet. Our team are not your ordinary virtual assistants. They're extraordinary for extraordinary executives. Stop drowning in your to-dos. Start focusing on what really matters. Whether you're a founder, freelancer, or time-starved exec, Ask Chenai is your unfair advantage. Visit askchenai.com or email sales@askchenai.com to find out more. Let's help you get your time back.